Now, here's the hosts of Top Story, Kelly Klass and Jill Steen.
Good morning and welcome to Top Story, 736-0300, always the number to call, and welcome, Jill.
Thanks, Kelly. Same to you.
And I don't know about you, but this seemed like this weekend seemed like it was an hour longer.
I like that. It was an hour longer.
But we'll pay for it in March.
Okay.
So, at any
I'll
rate.
worry about that then.
Yes. Coming up, we have Randy Staples with the Idaho Political Update. We're going to talk about a lot of election stuff today, including compulsory voting. A lot of democratic countries around the world have compulsory voting. If you don't vote, there's a penalty. And we'll talk about that possibility maybe here in the country since our voter results are so low.
Yes.
However, right now we have Idaho's U.S. Senator Jim Risch with us. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning.
Good morning, Kelly. Jill, how are you? Beautiful day.
Say.
Great, thank you.
I think our summer has gone, though.
Amen to that. I was in the mountains this weekend for a little bit, and there was some snow.
Oh, yeah, and I didn't even look at the hills. I haven't even checked out the South Hills to see if we got any. But at any rate, thank you for joining us on the show here. You've been in office now for 6 years. Let's go over your accomplishments and why the people should reelect you.
Well, I think probably the most important accomplishment is I deliver a vote that's a reliably conservative vote and represents the 60% of Idahoans who identify themselves as either very conservative or somewhat conservative. And so if people are looking for someone who's going to be able to stand up and say, why I created this program, I expanded that program, I spent more money on this, they got the wrong guy. That's the guy running against me. He'll deliver that for him. But so the most important thing I did, probably of all the time that I was there, is had nothing to do with a vote or for that matter any of the formalities. There was a coalition of us that both Republicans and Democrats who stopped the president from bombing in western Syria shortly after Labor Day weekend in 2013. And it's not widely discussed. It's in the media, but not widely spread. It would have been a colossal mistake. And the landscape, I know you think it can't be worse, but it would have been a whole lot worse today than what it is right now had he done what he was talking about.
Senator, you voted against the Violence Against Women Act, which was co-sponsored by Senator Crapo, Senator Franken's amendment to a defense appropriations bill that would have given a rape victim working for an American defense contractor an opportunity to prove her case in an American court, and the Republicans blocked the Paycheck Fairness Act for the fourth time. Why should a woman vote for you?
Well, I think we're all Americans. I don't like it when people say, "Look, this is a bill for men," or "This is a bill for women," or "This is a bill for." If you start with the Halliburton case you were talking about, that bill was a disaster as far as incursion into the judicial system that we have in America. The laws are very clear that when someone commits a wrong, you have access to a court and you have the ability to prove your case. The person that's charged with it does not have to prove they're innocent. You have to prove that they did something that deserves compensation. And in that particular case, what they were trying to do was they were trying to reverse that. It was just wrong. But what it does is that it's inflammatory because, as you say, Democrats said, "Oh, this is terrible. Republicans hate women." Not so. Go to the Violence Against Women's Act.
I have.
There isn't anybody that I know that doesn't think that that's a cowardly and despicable act. As far as I'm concerned, you can't you can't do enough to clobber those people that are doing that. And I listened to all my colleagues debate, and I said, "Look, have any of you people ever done anything? Actually, not give speeches, but have you ever actually done anything about violence against women?" They say, "Well, no, but it's a bad thing." We all agree with that. Look, I started my career doing that. I was a prosecutor to start with in the 70s, and I went to court. I prosecuted two of the biggest rape cases that Ada County ever had, the most notorious ones and the most vicious ones. One was a North End rapist. The other one was a gentleman by the name of Michael Hightower. I had to sit with those. It was my job to sit with the victims and convince them that they should go to court and they should testify against these people. And believe me, they did not want to do it. And you can't blame them for it. I mean, these people, these young women had been brutalized, and it was just awful. So I have a real sense of this. I've lived it. I've been there, okay? I understand that. And I can't tell you how many people I put in prison or in jail for violence against women. I hate it. Okay, now turn to the federal bill, the Violence Against Women's Act. Turn your Constitution to Article 1, Section 8. It says the federal government can do the following: 1, 2, 3, 4. And if there's anything I vote back there, it is a strict constitutionalist agenda. The states are doing this and should be doing it. It is within their realm. This is not the federal government's job, and that's why we've got a $3.8 trillion spending by the federal government every year, because they're sticking their nose into everything that the states can and should be doing. As far as I'm concerned, they can and should lock some of these people up for life. I'm all for it. But we can do this. We're Idahoans. We know how to do this. We're doing a good job of it. We do not need the federal government sticking its nose into an area that constitutionally they can't stick their nose into. That's why I voted no on that. Not because I'm soft on that issue by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, I think everyone should look up that act. It's been in place since 1994. So anyway, go ahead, Kelly.
Well, Republicans would like to repeal the Affordable Care Act, which has now enrolled about 10 million Americans. What would the Republicans replace it with? What would you be in favor of replacing it with that affects about 75,000 Idahoans? And do the Republicans have a plan for health care? And if so, what is that plan?
Yeah, Kelly, that's a really good question. And just by asking the question, it's obvious that the national media refuses to carry what the Republicans' alternative is. The question was, do we have a plan? Of course we've got a plan. We've had it since we fought against it when I was first there. I'm going to give you some generalities and then some specifics. The generalities will not surprise you. What Obamacare did was nationalize arguably the most personal part of our lives. It nationalized an industry that makes up 1/6 of the American economy. The government's got no business here. This has traditionally been the free market approach to the delivery of health care. You did not have the government telling you what you had to do, what you couldn't do, who your doctor was going to be, and those kinds of things. So it will not surprise you that the Republicans, when we repeal Obamacare, we will go back to a free market system where you have thousands of medical care delivery people who are in the care, and going back to insurance companies, of which there's thousands in the United States, competing for people's business. This is the way America should work. What's next after healthcare? I mean, do you go to transportation? That's really important. Do you go to housing? That's really important. Do you go to food? That's really important. But the government, look, here you have something that is so big, so personal, so important to our lives, and it is incredibly technical and complicated. So what happens? The government comes in, turns the apple cart upside down, and says, well, we're going to redo this. The people who know something about this are left outstanding in the cold, and the politicians are going to redo the system. What could possibly go wrong there?
So Senator, what is
absolute nonsense. It's not America. It's not the way that this country has become the great country that it's become. The Americans can do this, and we can do it without the government.
Being a fiscal conservative, as you say you are, if the minimum wage were raised from $7.25 to $10.10 an hour, this would save the U.S. government an estimated $7.6 billion every year, according to a recent analysis by the Economic Policy Institute, and would raise 176,000 Idahoans out of poverty. Wouldn't it be prudent to raise the minimum wage so the government can stop subsidizing these companies' workers?
Jill, That's a really good political debate using statistics that I don't buy on to at all.
So you're saying those
the
aren't
government
accurate?
has absolutely no business setting the minimum wage, the maximum wage, or anything in between. This insults every person in the state of Idaho, every working person and every employer. Are you saying people are too stupid to sit down and figure out what a fair wage is for the delivery of services? Employees know what they have to work, and more importantly, employers know what they have to pay in order to keep people who are good people and going to keep them in business. The most important part of any business, the heart and soul of any business, is the employees, and the employers have to keep them happy. If they don't, they're not going to be in business very long. Government, get out of this. Leave this alone. Jill, I understand where you want to go with it.
So do you think they shouldn't have a minimum wage?
Yourself are dedicated to the proposition that the government can make all these decisions much better than we Americans can ourselves. You're wrong. You are dead wrong.
I'm wrong. Are you saying there shouldn't be a minimum wage? Did you
I
want to
wouldn't vote
abolish
for a
the minimum wage?
I've never thought there should be a minimum wage.
Really?
This is a matter between an employer and employee. There are people in America, and let me tell you what you're doing. Let me give you a perfect example. Go to the New York Times, and I hate directing people in the New York Times, but it was reprinted in the Idaho Statesman, and they did this expose about Oregon and Idaho and how Oregon's minimum wage is higher than Idaho's. So they had a young lady who lived in Idaho, commuted over to Oregon because she was a waitress. She worked over there. They raised the minimum wage, and she got a little bit more money. She was very, very happy. Buried in the middle of the story is something that should drive liberals like yourself absolutely crazy. In the middle of the story, they talked about how all the waitresses got a little bit more money. They went to the owner and said, well, how's that working? And he said, well, we got to pass the cost on, but, we'll get through and what have you. Any other changes? Well, yes, we had to fire the dishwasher because we couldn't afford that size of a payroll. Now, look, the most vulnerable person in the business, the person who had the dignity of a job, even though they were a person who couldn't do a fancy job or a high-quality job or what have you, they had the dignity of getting up every morning and going to work and working for a wage. What did the government do? The government put that person back on the street, out of a job. That's not the way America should work. And I know what you liberals will say. You liberals will say, no problem. We'll give them food stamps. We'll give them
That's
housing.
What's happening now,
we'll
Senator.
Give them subsidized health care.
That's what's happening
now. We'll give them subsidize this, subsidize that. Leave Americans alone, Jill. We can do this without government.
Yeah,
Leave
we're
us
not.
alone.
Senator, we are out of time, but thank you very much for being on the show, and we appreciate it.
Nice to talk to you.
All right,
Bye.
Same here. U.S. Senator for Idaho, Jim Risch, here on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX. We'll be right back. 7360300 is the number to call here this morning on Top Story. Welcome back. Infrared Barren, you've heard us talking about that. Now, there probably won't be a lot done with Infrared Barren right now because the irrigation season is through for the year. But coming up this next spring, this is something you'll want to consider. Overflights of your fields to take infrared photography so you can see your crop from an infrared point of view. And you can see things with infrared photography, such as wet spots and dry spots that you can't really see with the naked eye. And they can do all this for you at Far More of Idaho. So if you want to find out more about Infrared Barren, contact the folks at Far More of Idaho, 324-3341, or at farmoreofidaho.com. They're online. Everybody's online these days.
Everyone's
Are you
online.
You're online.
In what way?
Your book.
Yeah. I saw my book online. Comfort Food Gets a Vegan Makeover would be great for gifts. For the holidays, free gift wrap if you order from my website, jillscheme.com.
Holy smoke. I'll just go to breakfast.
I digress.
Yeah.
What did you say? Oh, yes, I'm online.
Anyway, we have Randy Staples coming up at 8:40 with the Idaho Political Update. At 9 o'clock, we're going to talk about the idea of compulsory voting.
That idea in itself is annoying to me.
It is.
I'm sorry. People around the world fight and die for the right to vote. They're holding their purple fingers up, and we're like, I don't know. Yeah,
it's raining. It's a little bit cold. I don't think I'll go vote. I know, Jill. I know. I know. I know.
Please, I can't. It's your civic
so-
duty, people, to vote.
So we'll talk about the
Maybe there should
possibility.
be a national day of voting and have it as a holiday.
Well, now that's another theory.
Mm-hmm.
That is another theory. Back when Election Day used to be special and there wasn't any early voting and you actually had to be gone in order to absentee vote. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that Election Day used to be a big day. Now it's just kind of the conclusion of 3 weeks of voting.
Or some people with everything that's going on, everything at stake, and we'll talk about this at 9 o'clock. They're like, I don't know.
7360300. Top story. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Kelly. Good morning, lovely Jill. Hey, let me congratulate Jill. You are the best. I love that. I love that interchange you had with Senator Risch. I think you did outstanding.
Well, thank you. I just wish we had better answers.
I know, but that's just the way the state will double talk. Listen, this morning in yesterday's paper, they talk about doing intelligent voting, but the Republican Party keeps just throwing themselves in there. No matter what, vote Republican. Come on, people, educate yourself on the candidates and what they stand for. Don't just vote because they're Republicans or Democrats. Come on, people. Thank you.
I know. I think this is election too important, and there's a lot of good candidates.
The Democrats do the same thing. You know, it's just, I don't mind telling you that, and I know for the last few weeks, we've been making a ton of money here with all the political campaigns going on. But I'll tell you what, I am to the point where I am ready for it to be over. I'm ready to go back to being a pauper and just playing PSAs from the ad council just to get away from, I mean, you can only take so much.
Yeah, you can only take
whether you're Republican or Democrat, you can only take so much.
No, but I mean, the caller makes a good point. Be informed. And honestly, the fact that Sherry Ibarra is leading, by 1 point or something, it's outrageous. I mean, with everything that's happened in her campaign, with everything that she said, everything she has not said, and to just vote because there's an R behind your name. You know what, Idaho, you get what you deserve then. Honestly, there's a few races here that if the Republicans win, I'm very disturbed about, and you should do your homework. Don't just go in there. You've had plenty of time. Go online
frankly,
today.
You're disturbed if a Republican wins anyway.
No, you know what? If they're qualified, that's one thing. But when you're talking about some of these candidates and the effects they're going to have on our state, the effects they might have on our voting rights, these are important things. On our education, these are things, look into it. Don't just say I'm voting R and then complain because this is what you get.
People use elections to vote their beliefs, their ideologies.
No, well, fine. Ideology over candidate, ideology over the state, ideology over our kids, over education, over funding, over voter rights, ideology over a state treasurer. I mean, come on. Like, there are some candidates in here that you need to look at because the status quo is not good enough for the state of Idaho right now. And if you think it is, then you are a low information voter.
7360300, top story. You're on the air.
Good morning.
Yes, that low information Latino that keeps calling in needs to go back where he came from.
All right.
You know what? We all have our opinions, just like you have your opinion.
I cut it off. 7360300, top story. You're on the air.
Good morning.
Good morning. Obviously, what you don't think we know how we're going to vote and what we're doing? We're listening to your station. We hear both sides. We're pretty educated. We're not dumb. We can handle this.
I'm talking about the ones who just go in and vote because there's an R behind their name and haven't looked into anything.
And there's other states where they go in and vote because there's a D behind the name, like in Massachusetts.
Maybe so. However, look at what's happening in our race in Idaho. It's too important this year to just put an R behind someone's name. That's what I'm saying.
Or a D.
I think the D's are pretty good this year, honestly.
Oh, of course you do, because that's your philosophy. That's your
really?
ideology.
Our state treasurer for
that's
16
just the
years,
way it is, Jill.
who has lost the taxpayers $20 million.
And we're back. 7360300 is the number to call here this morning on Top Story. And
what?
Know
what?
They have guns at Canyon Pond.
Yes, I've seen them for myself.
Along with camping stuff and woodworking stuff
All
and
sorts of
fishing
that.
poles and tools
Jewelry.
and jewelry.
The holidays are coming up, people.
Yeah, and they
They've
have
got jewelry,
watches.
I know. Oh, God, now we're thinking alike. I'm
Yeah,
scared.
oh my gosh, yeah. What else do they have? Well, you just kind of name it. I mean, they got tools.
Camping equipment. They have some kitchen stuff. They have
That's
pots.
right.
They have
That's right. Little
all sorts of interesting
yeah,
things. That's
at
why you got to
Canyon,
check it out.
Canyon Pawn. It's Twin Falls' newest pawn shop, pawn store, whatever you want to call them.
I don't know.
And it's right across from Will's Toyota on Shoshone Street at 3rd Avenue South. And Dave and the crew would certainly like you to come in and see what they got, because they got lots of cool stuff. And it's nice and clean. One of the pawn shops that when you go in, you don't have to worry about getting dirty.
No, it's beautiful, and his cases are lovely. He made them himself.
Yes,
and his gun
I know.
racks.
That's
Very
right.
talented woodworker.
Yes, he is.
I wish he would do my come over and have a few projects for him on my honey-do list. Dave, come over, do my honey-do list. I have to wait till Tom retires.
That's right.
Hey.
I thought he was retired, but
No, my husband? No.
Yeah,
Are you
okay.
kidding? No.
Well, hey, we were going to talk about a little news here before Randy Staples, but the phone's ringing, so let's
Why
just
not?
go ahead and take the
We
call.
are a talk show.
Top story, you're on the air. Good morning.
Good morning, Kelly and Jill.
Well, good morning.
Kelly, Kyle, we meet again.
It's
How are you?
Monday, and it's cow day, so I get to sit and listen to the radio.
Well,
Oh, wow.
cool.
Thank you for listening.
Jill, I want to agree with you.
Are you really going to, or is this going to be a backhanded compliment where you bring me up and then you throw me down?
No,
Come on, Kyle.
Jill, you know I respect you. I've told you that before. We argue, and I would hug you any day.
Okay, thank you, and I feel the same.
As far as what you said is true. Please don't just listen to the throwing out and backbiting and everything else. Go out, research things.
Mm-hmm.
Anything can be taken out of context by reading one line instead of the whole page. And figure out what works for you. And please.
Right.
And that's all I can say. I'm not going to throw a pitch for anyone. Everybody has to make up their own mind. It's America. We have our choice to voice our opinion and vote for the person we want. And that's the way it should be. Jill, you have every right to say what you say, and I have every right to say what I say. We can agree or disagree. That is America. God bless it.
And I agree 100% with what you say. That's all I ask.
Have
Do
you
some
voted
research.
yet?
Whoa.
I wanted to ask him if he'd voted yet.
I don't know.
But I guess
You and I have both voted.
Yes.
Yes.
7360300, top story. You're on the air. Good morning.
Good morning. I get a little tired of hearing that the Idaho schools are the worst in the nation because the Wall Street Journal rates Idaho schools as a C. Nevada, California, New Mexico, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, South Carolina, West Virginia, and D.C. are rated as F.
And Idaho's D?
Idaho is C.
Oh, C.
We're right in the middle.
You know,
Well, we're the lowest in what we spend on our kids.
But,
But the most money that's probably spent in the whole country is Washington, D.C., and it's an F.
yeah, exactly, which proves that the more money you throw at it isn't necessarily going to fix the problem. I've always felt that was a poor way to judge schools just by the amount they spend per student, because I feel like we get more bang for our buck. I know we've got some problems in the state. I know our
We got a lot of problems.
well, I know that, but I don't think we have as bad of problems in some of the other states. But I mean, I don't rating it by the amount of money you spend. The most expensive item out there that you can buy is not always the best. And I think that goes the same way with schools.
Well, part of it too is spending on our teachers, and it has been reported and in the paper and around that we cannot keep teachers. We're just trying to give teacher certificates for people to educate our kids in our schools. Our salaries are way lower than the surrounding states. And you have to look at it. Oh, we're a C, so it's great. We're not an F. Come on, why not? Why aren't we an A?
Well, hey, it could
why aren't
be
we an
worse.
A plus? Why we're like Massachusetts?
Top story. You're on the air. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. I find it humorous that Jill borrows a term from Rush Limbaugh, such as low information voters, to describe the Republicans who will just vote where there's an R by the name. I think it's kind of funny.
Well, that's who you all listen to, and he follows our show, so I assumed you knew what that term meant. I think that is true for anyone who just goes in there and doesn't educate themselves. And out here, I've heard more people, even campaign. Oh, there's ads in the paper this week. Vote the Republican ticket. Vote the Republican ticket. You know what? There's some Republicans on that ticket we should not be voting for. Do your due diligence and look and vote how you should. What would be best for Idaho, regardless of the party?
Well, we're going to have Randy Staples up next here on Top Story with the Idaho Political Update and see what he has to say about some things right here on News Radio 1310 KLIX. 7360300 is the number to call. And by the way, I'm a little upset about that, giving away my money, but, I guess it goes to a good cause.
They
can't give away my money. I don't have any money.
I can't believe you were sitting during that commercial. I'm like, wait, what? They're giving away your 401k, and he's just not like a raging bull? Are you kidding me? Trying to get something out of your wallet is tough.
That's right, boy.
Does Connie know about this? Oy.
Well, hey, welcome back to Top Story. We have Randy Staples with us this morning with the Idaho Political Update. Good morning, Randy.
Good morning, Randy.
Good morning.
Nice to have you back.
How excited are you for this to almost be over?
It's a time. There's a time for all things, and this is the time for an end to this season.
Yes, absolutely. Do we have any? Let's talk about some close races. Do we have anything that's going to be close? Looks like the governor's race might be a little closer than people thought, but now I hear that the Governor Otter is pulling away from A.J. Belukoff, and so are these just pre-election day stories, or what's the substance to this?
Well, I suppose the question is that at least that a lot of people seem to be asking is to what extent can John Bujak, who's the Libertarian candidate, draw some votes and pick up his percentage. And there are you hear this particularly from a number of Democrats, but some others as well, who are wondering whether he might be able to get do better than the usual third party kind of approach. The normal thing with third parties is that they pick up 1 to 2% of the vote, maybe 3% if they're really lucky. So they're not usually a very big factor. Bujak, there's some speculation that he may have done well enough in the debates. I've heard a lot of people say that, as far as they're concerned, that he won the debates. That they've had, or at least the last few, with the three main gubernatorial candidates. So there's some talk about that. There's some talk about, well, if he picks up 7, 8, 9% of the vote, and then you add that to the other kind of sliver candidates in the governor's race, maybe it starts to then get close enough, or at least that's one line of speculation. I'm not so sure that it'll wind up doing it. The usual thing is that the third-party candidates look better in the polling, and then when people actually get in the polling booth, they thought, I'm not going to throw away my vote.
Yeah,
I'm going to vote for one of the major guys.
I'm kind of worried because I think he is going to take. I think if people are upset, and you do hear it. I mean, you see it in the letters to the editor, you see it in comments online, how upset they are with O.A.R. That I think, they could split the vote and O.A.R. could still win. That's my concern. Like, they won't want to vote for Democrat. But, Bujak, I'd vote for him. And he did do well in the debates. I don't know if he won it, but I thought he did well. Much better than O.A.R. The last debate, O.A.R. looked like a crazy man during that debate. I don't know if you noticed that.
That was, I would have to say, that was the worst performance I have ever seen Butch O.A.R. give. And I've first watched him in debates back in 1978 when he ran for governor then, and all the way through the years, by and large, he has come across pretty well. Certainly, pretty capable professional. Done a good job in debates, but this last one he did horribly.
Oh, I thought, and he's like flapping and spitting and shaming the reporters, and you see Bujak and Belukoff just standing there looking at him like, what is wrong with you?
I told people that if I were somebody who had just tuned in for 10 minutes and knew nothing whatsoever about the candidates, the race, or anything else, my reaction would be I certainly wouldn't be voting for that guy who's who's not looking as if he's well.
I know.
Do you think he lost votes in that debate?
I would hope so.
Maybe he lost a few, but I guess the question is how many people watched.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I'm not sure that the number is enough to make a big difference.
That's sad, but I know my husband and I, at some points we were laughing, like, oh my gosh, he's gone off the rails. And you think he knows he's in trouble when he's so flappable to me that he's really skating on thin ice, because that I've never seen anyone debate like that before.
It's been pretty rare that I've seen somebody really kind of blow it like that, especially somebody who is an incumbent and who has been doing this for a very long time.
Yeah.
Do you think that Bujak would have more of a tendency to pull votes away from O.A.R than he would Belukov?
Oh, definitely,
yeah,
definitely.
I think so too.
That's to the extent that people do not want to vote for and just plain decline to vote for O.A.R,
yeah.
but they cannot make themselves vote for a Democrat. Bujak gives them kind of the safe harbor for doing an alternative. So there's that theory that he might draw enough. I'm kind of skeptical that will happen in the end. But if O.A.R if lightning strikes and O.A.R does fail in this one, it will probably be because of Bujak.
Well, it'd be interesting.
What about the independent voters? Do you think they're going to? Do you think independent voters are going to be more independent in this election?
I'm not sure that they'll be that much more independent. There may be a few places where they're a little bit more so. The superintendent of public instruction's race is certainly kind of an interesting one that way. Even the polling is showing that one as being very close, and I suspect it will be one of the closer races.
And that's shocking to me, Randy. That is shocking that it's even close. Seriously, with Sherry Ibarra, who can't remember when she was married, when she was divorced, she can't remember her awards, she can't remember her degrees. I'm like shocked. What do you have to do?
And all of that is, what you have to do is you have to get the Republican nomination.
It's pathetic. That's sad.
O.A.R on the ballot is enormously powerful, and I think that race is the Democrats' best shot of winning. I think that their odds of winning it are better than even, although not by a lot. But I think there's a good chance that Janet Jones will wind up winning that one. That's not the only one though that I would say that about. I can imagine that the Secretary of State's race could possibly be close enough, and there's an outside. I think there's a not too unreasonable chance that Holly Woodings might be able to pull that one off.
Well, I hope so.
There's an argument that I've heard that enough Republicans are displeased with Lawrence Denny.
Yeah.
That certainly he's developed conflicts within the legislature, within various factions, that there may be enough concern quietly among Republicans that Woodings, who has run a pretty good campaign and a very well-funded one,
she has, yeah,
may be able to pull it off. I think that it's less than likely, but I wouldn't be totally shocked if it happened.
I hope so.
Those are about the only two that I'm looking at.
We have a caller, Randy.
Yeah, top story. You're on the air with Randy Staples. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Randy, what do you think of the advertisement from Citizens for Change for Belukov, where they flat just said that if he got in, he would repeal the balanced budget amendment and that he would go for the saving the wolves and basically telling us he's going to run us into debt.
That is not by the Belukov campaign.
I don't know where that would have come from. It's certainly not something that I've heard Belukov saying.
Okay, it's almost a spoof ad, but they're running it to make it look like it's for Belukov, but it wasn't. So.
Yeah, that sounds like what that would be, because he certainly hasn't been saying anything like that.
No, and that's the sad thing about political advertising. You can sit there and lie and make it look like it's coming from Belukov's campaign, and that's fine when it's actually from O.A.R's campaign. And it's sad that Kyle would think that that's from Belukoff. That's sad because Kyle's very informed. I mean, how effective is that
I'm
ad?
not sure he thought that it was from Belukoff. I think he was just asking it. But I have heard.
But no. Well, just to answer the question, no, it certainly is not.
Yeah, exactly. But I have heard people say, man, have you heard that one ad?
Yeah.
And they kind of think it is. So it is.
Well, that's the only way. You know what? I'm sorry.
deceptive.
That's the only way O.A.R can win, by doing stuff like that. Shame on him. Anyway.
Well, and I'm not sure his campaign has anything to do with it. So, I mean, before you start.
Unless we know, it could have come from another source, too, although it would have been one that would have been, seeking to help O.A.R.
Shouldn't he condemn it, though? I mean, come on. They know it's out there. He's known about it. And wouldn't you sit there and say, you know what, that's not right?
I haven't heard anything they said about it.
Mm-hmm.
But...
exactly.
Yeah. Well, and some of it is kind of ridiculous on its face. Things like repealing the provision that the budget has to be balanced. That doesn't even come from the governor. That would have to start with the legislature.
Right.
The governor wouldn't even have anything directly to do with that.
Right.
People aren't that well informed, though, Randy. Anyway.
Top story.
Yeah. Well, there's that.
Yeah, there's that.
Okay, I'm trying to get this button turned off. I have bad buttons.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, it's Kelly's buttons. It's not his fingers.
So, have you heard anything about early voting? We talked to County Clerk Christina Glasscock here a couple of weeks ago, and she said that it's been brisk, but it hasn't. It's been kind of on par with previous years.
A little bit higher, she said.
Have you heard any reports?
That seems to be about right from what I'm hearing from what I've heard of happening in a few other counties that voting seems to be pretty good, not great, but not all that bad either. It's not bringing in unusual numbers of people by any means.
Yeah.
But then that's kind of normal for the midterm elections. The numbers are always much higher in presidential. So this is really kind of normal.
The resignation of Joan Boren over the weekend from the Boise School District Board of Trustees has kind of raised some eyebrows because A.J. Belukoff was the president of that board before he stepped down to run for governor, and she says that they're just playing to the administration. They really don't do much other than that. Do you think this was politically motivated to move to make Belukoff look bad?
Well, with the timing, it's hard to imagine that it's hard to imagine it as being coincidental.
Yeah.
I mean, she didn't specifically mention that in her statement. And when I was reading through some of it, and her statement was pretty well blasted by a number of other current and former board members.
Yeah, I noticed that.
A lot of it struck me as being a statement by someone who was inexperienced in serving on a board and didn't realize the large role that staff always plays, whether it's a nonprofit organization or a government or a board of directors in a corporation or whoever it is. Very often the staff will play a very large role in a lot of the time, the largest percentage of the time, a lot of what the board does. That's something I observed as a reporter decades ago. And maybe she never understood that.
But she'd been on the board a while, right? It was like 2010 or 2011 she's been on the board?
Yeah, not really very long though. Not over such a
3 years.
Such a long period of time. In answer to the main question, the weekend before the election that Belukoff's on the ballot for governor, it's hard to imagine that it's a coincidence that that's when she chooses to resign.
Yeah.
After having been on the board for several years, she could have done it much earlier, or she could have done it after the election.
Yep. Do you remember any other elections, any other campaigns in the near past that have been this, I don't know, backbiting, and I don't know if backbiting is the word to use, but just confrontational?
Well, this one raises it to some higher levels, depending on where you are and what it's looking at. The 2010 the last 2 or 3 have been pretty heated that way. Although in 2014 there's the added factor of more debate, more battling within the Idaho Republican Party than there usually had been before.
Yeah.
So that probably added another layer to what people have been experiencing, at least.
Yeah. Well, Randy, we are out of time. We appreciate it. Now, tomorrow's the election, and then we'll be talking to you again Wednesday at the same time to kind of do a wrap up of the election.
Well, we'll look forward to doing that.
I'm sure you'll be very tired. We probably all will. We're going to be calling the thing.
Maybe up all night. Who knows?
Just get a cup of coffee. We'll call you, Randy. Thank you.
Thanks, Randy. We'll see you Wednesday.
We'll talk to you then.
Okay. Bye-bye. And coming up next hour, we're going to talk about compulsory voting. Should it be required? And that's right after the news from the Fox Radio News Network at the top of the hour. See you in a few minutes. And welcome back to Top Story, 7360300, always the number to call. Welcome back, Jill.
Thanks, Kelly. Same to you.
One thing that we neglected to mention was that today we will be pulling a name out of the hat for the winner of the lunch, for the free lunch with Kelly and Jill, the Canyon Crest Dining and Event Center, and a ride in the limo.
Or a box.
For the month of October.
That's right. We almost forgot because we started with Senator Risch and we went on gang blazing from there.
Yeah, all saying. Totally forgot about it. So
anyway, the end of the show. Listen up if you played. Win a lunch with us. We had a great time last time. We always have a great time.
We have a caller.
Okay.
Should we take it?
Absolutely.
Top Story. You're on the air. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. Jill, I'm glad you know I was just putting a jab in.
Wait, what?
I called in about the Belukoff deal.
I know, but I can't hear you very well. Yeah?
I says I'm glad you understood that I was just putting a jab in. Anyway, on your topic.
She didn't. She thought you were serious.
I was
she
worried you thought it was
that
an
the ad
actual
was true.
one.
And I stuck up for you, Kyle, and I said, no, I'm not sure that he thought that
but
was
then
real.
some people are believing
we're going to miss you when you're gone.
I know. I'm going to miss Cal, too.
Who else is going to be around here to look out for you, Kyle? Come on.
That's right. Who's going to be on my side? Anyway, I'm not for anything that has the word "you have to" in it. I don't care what it is. It's in America. It's a free country. We should have somewhat of a choice. There's consequences to choices, of course. But, the more we force people into stuff, the worse it gets. It's never gotten easier by forcing anybody to do anything.
And that includes voting?
And that includes voting. Voting is a privilege that we have as Americans. And it should be American citizens. But, to say you have to or you're going to be penalized, come on. That's
come on,
wrong.
Kyle. That's the new American way.
But how pathetic is it that we have to do that?
I'm a traditionalist, and I don't think the new way is a good way. I don't think America, the way it is now, is any better than it was when I was 10 years old. I think when I was 10 years old, there was much more respect. There was much more of everything. So, no, I don't like the new way. But it is what it is, and I can respect things for the way they are, but people need to respect both sides, not the one side.
Well,
and
that's
Jill,
true.
as far as people voting R and B, I know what it's about. It's about the agenda. I mean, Obama himself says my agenda is on the ballot. You know what that means? You vote for a B, you vote for his agenda, and that's as simple as that. So if you vote for an R, you're leaning more that side. That's the way it is. People vote D because they're Democrats, and people vote R because they lean more towards Republicans. Blaming one side or another for doing that is just foolish. It's just foolish.
Well, I'll tell you what's foolish. In the state of Idaho, we need to vote what's best for the state of Idaho. And when you vote for someone who's not qualified for the job, or someone who's lost the state $20 million, or someone who's going to restrict our voting rights, you need to look at it beyond President Obama. He's not on the ballot out here. Those people are, and we have consequences to elections. And don't sit there and not vote because then someone else is making a choice for you. We have a civic responsibility, and it's pathetic that we would have to make it mandatory. Although it might be nice because so many people are being disenfranchised this election season because of the new voter ID laws. And it's not just voter ID. It's now saying, oh, if you need, what's happening in Texas, what's happening in North Carolina, what's happening in Ohio, what's happening in Georgia with some of these voter restrictions, losing 50,000 voter registrations by the Secretary of State of Georgia, disenfranchising 680,000 people in Texas. This should not be happening. Maybe if you made it mandatory, those people would get to vote. But, we live in America. We all should be voting. Don't sit there and complain if you don't vote.
I'm not saying we should make it mandatory. I'm just thinking it's an interesting conversation to have.
It
just
is.
to see what people think. But you know what? Actually, before we get to that, we do have a little news I would like to go over.
I thought we were good. Okay, go on.
But
anyway, go on.
Well, the number one, I guess, is which kind of got lost in all the political humdrum, is that Sergeant Andrew Tamaresi is now home. He was the Marine who accidentally drove across the Mexico border with guns, and he was, after 214 days in the Mexican prison, he's now headed home. He's now in Florida. He's now home. Let me put it that way. And the judge there decided to release him on humanitarian grounds, I guess. So, whatever it takes, at least we got him back. We got him home.
But,
yeah, and he does that. He wasn't getting any treatment for that in Mexico. So, I'm glad he's back.
Well,
I'm glad he's released.
what? You got to be careful on borders like that.
But that's just kind of one of the, I can see how that could happen. I could see myself doing that, getting on the wrong road, and then, holy cow, there's no way to turn off here.
Apparently, they do have a lot of signs and ways to turn off. From what I've seen, there's big signs. So, anyway, whatever. I'm glad he's free.
I've never been there.
I'm glad he's free.
I am too.
And we move on from there.
Brittany Maynard. Remember, we talked about this young lady not long ago, the 29-year-old face of the controversial right to death movement. She's dead now. She died. She
ended her own life.
Over the weekend because she had inoperable, incurable brain cancer, and she had horrible headaches, and she said that she moved to Oregon specifically for this because they have a death with dignity law there. So she apparently drank the fatal mixture of concoction. Why can't we have a problem with our death sentences of killing the
death penalties?
Why don't they use this stuff? I don't know what they used, but why don't they use this stuff?
I don't know. My mom's a member of the Hemlock Society.
Yeah.
That's pretty powerful, I think.
Hemlock?
Yeah, they have a Hemlock Society, but it's interesting because only 1.4% of the members have ever done it. My mom said she's a member because she said she, God forbid she loses her mind, she would want to just end it. And I said, Mom, the day you remember that you're going to kill yourself, you're too lucid to kill yourself. It's the day you wake up and say, what was I supposed to do today? That's the day you should take it, but you're not going to remember to take. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on. Like, if you're so lucid, although she was still lucid, and obviously her life was pretty miserable. And you know what? We all have a choice, and I hope she rests in peace, and her family is okay with that and have good memories of her. Who are we to decide?
And finally, record-breaking daredevil Nick Wallenda.
Oh, this is crazy.
Completed Sunday what he called his most challenging feat to date, a tightrope walk between two skyscrapers 600 feet above downtown Chicago.
Yikes.
The seventh-generation aerialist's Skyscraper Live was broadcast on Discovery. The walk consisted of two parts, starting from Marina City's West Tower, about 588 feet high. He crossed above the Chicago River to the Leo Burnett Building, finishing 671 feet above the street. After he returned to the West Tower, he crossed to the East Tower blindfolded.
He's crazy.
As he braced against estimated wind gusts up to 50 miles per hour.
Blindfolded.
Are you kidding? I cannot walk a straight line on a sidewalk in a 50-mile-an-hour wind, let alone
something like that. Can you imagine blindfolded?
Oh, I'll tell you what, that is amazing. It is beyond amazing.
It's beyond amazing.
And I wonder...
Is he married? Because I would say to
Does
Tom,
he have life insurance?
Are you nuts? I bet you probably no one would want to insure him.
As a member of the famous Flying Wallendas founded by his grandfather, Carl Wallenda, in the 1920s, Wallenda is no stranger to death-defying stunts. He walked across a wire 1,500 feet above a river in Arizona in June of 2013, becoming the first person to traverse the gorge near Grand Canyon Park in Arizona. Before that, he made a record-breaking journey across Niagara Falls in 2012. And it was his grandfather, Carl Wallenda, who was killed at the age of 73 attempting to walk between two buildings in Puerto Rico in 1978.
Yikes.
So, we call them crazy, we call them nuts and all this kind of stuff. But if you can do something like of this magnitude once every couple of years and make lots of money, and yet you and I, we wind up going to work every day, without even the slightest hope of making what this guy made in a half a day's work, for crying out loud. Yeah, it was dangerous.
What do you think he
walked
made?
Across the tightrope above the city of Chicago, but it only, in half a day, he's done now for a couple of years. He can take life easy.
So what if he died?
Well,
there you go. You should have been in a
we're all
studio
gonna
in front
die
of a
someday.
microphone. Why not?
Nobody's getting out of this life alive.
Did they close the streets?
I don't know, Jill. I don't know.
These are questions I have.
I know.
Kelly.
You always ask those.
At least
stumpers.
it's on a Sunday.
All I know is what
I'm glad he was
found
safe,
online
and if he were my husband, I'd kill him.
today.
Or the father of my children, and be like, "What are you, nuts?"
He probably is married.
I'm sure.
So-
Although, who would do that to themselves? I mean, gosh, I dated a cop once, years ago. I could hardly bear to watch the news. I couldn't. It's awful.
Yeah.
It's awful.
Well, and you can imagine what it's like being married to a soldier.
No, I can't.
A soldier who's
or you
deployed.
have a child,
So-
No, I can't. It's awful, and
I know.
I give him a lot of credit.
It's tough, but
It's horrible.
God bless him.
Yeah.
Okay, there is a little bit of news here. Tomorrow's election day. The early voting is now done. You can no longer stop by County West or any of the areas in your respective counties for early voting. It's done.
Done.
The Twin Falls County Clerk will be conducting a public test of the M650s on Monday. That's today, November 3rd at 3 p.m. They are an optical scan counting machine which will be used to count the ballots. The test and demonstration will be conducted at the Twin Falls County West on the first floor counting room, and you, as a member of the public, are invited to attend, watch, and ask questions about the counting procedures. This would actually be kind of interesting. Opening absentee ballots. Mailed absentee ballots will be opened today, starting at, guess what? They're doing that right now.
All right.
Starting at 10 a.m. to allow time for them to flatten out before being run through the tabulators.
Yeah.
The actual counting of these ballots will not take place until election night, and results will not be given out until the polls are closed statewide. That's always bugged
8 or
me.
9 o'clock. Because
9
o'clock.
9 o'clock.
Oh, you
'cause
just bug because you have to
North
stay
Idaho
up later.
is on Pacific time, so we can't do our election stuff here at 8 o'clock because we have to wait for North Idaho.
Yeah, but you can understand why we wait, don't you? It can influence the election.
I guess.
No, it's true.
I guess.
Why did California ever bother voting when they already heard so-and-so won?
When you're voting, all voters are required to provide personal ID or sign an affidavit before voting at the polls on Election Day. So if you're going to vote tomorrow, be sure to take an ID with you.
And keep that in mind, because if Lawrence Denny is elected, same-day registrations out the window, people. Out the window.
You don't know that for sure.
Absolutely.
No, I think
Be careful out there.
That's a legislature thing, I'm pretty sure,
Oh,
Joe.
yeah.
We'll
Look
be
what's
right
happening
back.
across
We'll be
the
right back
country.
on Top Story. Mandatory compulsory voting. What do you think? We'll be right back. 736-0300 is the number to call here this morning on Top Story. Welcome back. Friday's $100 instant winning name is Ellen Thomas.
Ellen Thomas, congratulations.
And your $100 word of the day for today is panda.
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 We've gone from scary to panda.
Yeah.
Aww.
And you can go to our website, newsradio1310.com. I'm sorry, I'm trying to sign back into the computer here. It's signed me out.
I know.
Type in the word panda.
You get no respect.
I know. Type
You're
in
like the Roger Dangerfield of radio.
You got that right. Type in the word panda and listen tomorrow. If you hear your name tomorrow and you played the word today, you win $100.
That's
just
how
like
easy that is.
Some interesting things going on day before the election here. 5 key Senate races are too close to call, according to new Marist NBC News surveys released Sunday. In North Carolina, Senator Kay Hagan, a Democrat, and Republican Tom Tillis are tied at 43%. In Arkansas, Representative Tom Colton, a Republican,
Cotton.
What did I say, Colton?
It doesn't matter what you
sorry.
said. You said the wrong
Tom
thing.
Cotton, you're right. A Republican is up by 2 over Senator Mark Pryor, a Democrat. Republican Representative Cory Gardner leads Senator Mark Udall by 1 in Colorado. And Republican Joni Ernst tops Republican Bruce Braley, a Democrat, by 3 in Iowa. So they are saying that there is a fairly decent chance that Republicans could take over the Senate.
Oh, good. And then what will they do? Like they've done their last few years? Nothing.
No.
This,
maybe we can get back to monetary sense. And, maybe things can get back to where they should be. Rather than taking that socialistic road to hell.
All right, yeah.
We can only hope, and I'm hoping, and I'll be voting. So there you go.
Well, you did vote. Hell, you can't vote twice.
I did.
Kelly, what are you trying to commit? Voter fraud? What's going on here?
Yeah.
You already voted. You're like, hey, I've got a short memory. This isn't voter fraud. I'm an old man.
I did? I already voted? When did I do that?
I know, exactly. I can see how it can happen. It was a few weeks ago. I slept.
It's tough reaching 62. It just really is.
I know.
But at any rate, now there's some talk, and I shouldn't say. There is just about 25%, I guess, of the so-called democracies around the world have compulsory voting. And I guess Australia just went to compulsory voting.
Mm-hmm.
That is, every able-bodied person who is registered to vote, who can legally be registered, has an obligation to vote. And I don't know what the penalties are. I'm sure that they vary from probably cutting your hand off to a small fine.
It's Australia.
I suppose.
Although North Korea,
no, but there's a lot of other.
North Korea gets 100% participation.
Absolutely, yes.
Come on,
yes.
Why can't we achieve and be like North Korea? That's our goal. Our standard is North Korea. 100% voting.
And when the caller called earlier and said he's against anything that you have to do, and I tend to be that same way. Whenever the government says you got to do this. You got to buy your health insurance from this place and such, that leaves a bad taste in my mouth. What do you think? Compulsory voting. I mean, our voting results
turnout is pathetic.
Yes, it is. 20 to 25% sometimes. In the last presidential election was up around
30-something.
Was it that? I thought it was greater.
That's
than
still
that.
quite pathetic.
Well, it is. It is. I was thinking it was around 60-some%.
Oh, like for the country or for Idaho?
No, for the country. I'm talking about for the country now, not just Idaho.
I don't know if it was 60%.
So, but
I wish.
736-0300 is the number. Yeah, what do you think? Compulsory voting, is it time? Top story, you're on the air. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. No, I don't agree with compulsory voting, but I do agree with the legally registered voting part. And I think if we went to only legal registered voters, I think people would be a lot more inclined to go vote instead of having all of this illegal alien crap going on and them trying to influence what our country does. I definitely agree with the legally registered voters, but I don't go with compulsory.
All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
And by the way, illegals don't vote. They can't vote. They don't vote. Even people with green cards can't vote in this country. My brother-in-law is from England. He has a green card. Can't vote.
Now in Chicago, I know dead people vote. So they've got that.
Yeah, they have
perfected.
so much voter fraud. You know what? It's sad what's happening. We all should be encouraging people to vote and not restrict voter rights.
736-0300, top story. You're on the air. What do you think?
Well, I don't think you should be compelled to vote. Everyone should want to vote.
Yeah.
But, one thing I noticed, they sent me absentee ballots out in the mail, and I was glad to get them because sometimes it's hard to get away from work.
Yeah, it
you know,
is.
and,
It is.
especially, if you're in an agriculture, rural environment, it just sometimes you just don't work out too good.
Did you
but
ask for them, or did they just send them to you?
I did not, but we live in kind of a odd area, and I know that they changed the
Some
what do you
rural
call it, the polling station or whatever where we go to vote.
That's right. I think
some rural companies get mail-ins.
I think that's right. Yeah, we'll be right back. 7360300 is always the number to call here this morning on Top Story. Welcome back. We're kind of taking a unofficial poll if you think it's time for compulsory voting.
Has anyone said yes?
Not yet.
How many no's did we have? I don't know. I haven't been keeping track.
You haven't?
Well,
That's
I
your
didn't
job.
know. I didn't know we were doing a poll. You didn't say it was a poll.
I certainly did. What did you think I was doing when I was asking people in a call?
Oh, I guess I should just know to track it.
Well,
Excuse me, Lord and Master.
Well, no, that's better.
Wow.
That's better.
Good gosh. When's December 31st?
Hey, I'll tell you what.
Tell me something.
A low and honey loader could be in your future if you have a lot of livestock in a confined area, because it just makes sense. That's what it's for. It's capable of loading all types of manure, liquid, frozen, dry, up to 7 miles an hour. Vacuum as you scrape with no water added with the Lowen Honey Vac. Reduced odor, lower labor costs, scrape once a day, and even loads thick manure. Okay, you're getting the picture, right? That's what this thing is for. There's been a lot of these sold by Stanley and Company to feedlots and dairies, and it might be something that you are considering for your operation. If so, you want to see one in operation before you buy, get a hold of Pat Hartzell. He's the guy to talk to. 280-1167. That's 280-1167. Pat Hartzell with Stanley and Company. He can fix you up. I think they ought to adopt that as their tag. He can fix you up.
Okay.
All right.
I kind of liked it. It doesn't cost, it pays better than he can fix you up. Okay, anyway.
All right, so we're taking an unofficial poll. Compulsory voting. Should it be required?
We had one say no, one no. Was that Kyle? No?
No, yeah. We've had I think at least 2 say no, and maybe 3.
Why are you keeping track? Okay, why is it just my job, you sexist pig?
Because
okay, go on.
I'm sitting here running the board. You are sitting over there running your mouth off.
Oh, please.
Looking up stuff on the computer while I'm trying to keep this show going. 736-0300. Top Story, you are on the air. What do you think?
Well, I don't think anyone should be forced to vote, but I do want to say one thing. The Democrats are concerned about disenfranchised people not being able to vote because they can't afford an ID. We throw so much money at these people for all sorts of things. That's one thing I would not oppose, is if the government would say, okay, you want an ID, we'll pay for you to get an ID. That way they can prove that they're eligible to vote, get an ID, and what does it cost? Maybe $8 to get a state ID.
Yeah,
I wouldn't mind. I'd much rather spend $8 per person so they could have a valid ID and prove that they're eligible to vote than to let just people vote just because they say they're eligible.
Yeah, and they can't afford an ID.
But you know what's happening? Yeah, well, it is a poll tax. But the other thing, and they proved it was a poll tax, but the other thing that's happening, and I saw...
Poll tax?
Yeah, exactly. But the other thing is this man has gone since May to his state to get a state-issued ID every month. And I just an interview with him in Texas. Every month they've told him, we're out of them. We're out of them. This is the election Tuesday. This man, he goes, I have the dates, I have the times, I have when I went, and every time they say we're out of state-issued IDs. Can you imagine? So if you're telling me you're trying to help people vote, you're not. And guess what? He lives in Texas, and guess what? He's black. So you know what? This is what's happening. But the Supreme Court said this was unconstitutional what they're doing, but they allowed it because the election is so close. But you know what? Deny people state IDs is outrageous.
I believe that Christina Glasscock said any type of an ID that shows you are who you are is valid, and they even have affidavits.
Not in the
Idaho
state of Texas.
Well, you know what? I'm sorry, we're not the state of Texas.
What I'm saying is this is what's happening. So don't be so naive and say just get a state-issued ID. When you go to get a state-issued ID and they're saying we're out of them, what do you do? If that's not preventing you from voting, what is it? What is it? It's outrageous.
I don't know where you saw that.
An interview on the news. This man who has been interviewed, he's been going since May to get his state-issued ID because he wanted to vote in the primaries.
Maybe he's just saying that.
Oh,
Maybe
yeah, I'm sure he's just making that up.
Is he the only one in that whole area who's wanting to get one and is protesting because
Let's talk about the 93-year-old a veteran who went to vote in Texas, who had an expired driver's license because, let me guess, he's 93. They wouldn't take his forms of ID, his old driver's license. He had several other forms, but not the one that the state required. But you know what? You can't use a student ID, but you can use an NRA ID. Like, come on, people. If you don't see that this is trying to disenfranchise, then start doing some research and read what's happening around this country. Shame on us. Maybe mandatory voting would help people get their right to vote in this country.
We'll be right back here on Top Story. We are back. 736-0300 is the number to call. So do you think compulsory voting has come of age? Nobody has really thought so yet.
Maybe they should.
I do know this, though. The folks at Clearwater Power Equipment have chainsaws and leaf blowers. And I was down by there the other day, and they have a hydraulic log splitter sitting out front there, too.
That must have made you want to buy it.
You know what?
We know what kind of a hoarder you are.
Well, I'll tell you what, man. If you are chopping up wood for the winter, there's nothing that can beat a hydraulic wood splitter rather than doing it with an axe. So the hydraulic wood splitter has gotten rid of the axe. The leaf blower, the Echo leaf blower, from Clearwater Power Equipment has gotten rid of the old rake, and the chainsaw has gotten rid of the old-fashioned handsaw. Mm-hmm. So I'll tell you what.
We're just getting lazier and lazier, like Wall-E. Did you say that movie? That we're just like Wall-E?
I did. But I'll tell you what, you can get a lot more work done with this stuff from Clearwater Power Equipment. You can stop in and see them at 252 Washington Street, or give them a call at 734-7767, and they can help you out. That's all they do. They work on that stuff, and that's it. They don't sell anything else. They don't sell drain cleaner, and they don't sell lumber, and they don't sell paint. You know, they sell power equipment.
They don't.
That's right.
But they do things well.
They do, absolutely. All right, so let's go back to the phones here. What do you think? Is it time for compulsory voting in America? Top Story, you're on the air. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, thank you for taking my call.
You're welcome.
Listen, I read a book called Send In the Waco Killers, which was a bit of an eye-opener, written by Vin Supernowitz down in Las Vegas area. And one of the things that he said about voting is that when the only choices on the ballot are bad choices, something like compulsory voting would simply force the population to make a bad choice. And
good point.
My understanding is that if less than 50% of registered voters actually vote, then an election is supposed to be nullified. Now, I don't know if that's federal or state. I think he was talking about federal elections. So I think we should all register to vote and then refuse to actually vote in order to send a proper message to those who represent us in government.
Wow.
Boy, that sounds helpful.
You think that'll work?
Why have government?
Some people will vote no matter what.
I'm sorry, but I think that's ridiculous. I think in some of the places, and I think in Georgia, they have 3 candidates that if someone doesn't get 51%, there's a runoff or something, but I don't know if that's in every state.
Well, I know, wasn't it when Clinton was elected the first time? Because there was Ross Perot. Was it Clinton? What back then? Shoot, my memory is fading now.
What are you trying to think about?
Well, I think that Clinton was elected the first time with only 40-some% of the vote, if I remember correctly.
I don't know. I will look that up. But I know there are some states that have runoffs that if you don't get 51%, then there's a runoff. Yeah. But I know in Georgia, the runoff isn't going to happen until, I believe, like January 6th or something. So it's a little crazy.
That is an interesting point, though. If all you have is bad choices, then compulsory voting is forcing American citizens to vote for a bad choice.
Well, I'm sorry. The bad choices are going to represent you, and maybe more people need to be in the election process instead of going, oh, it's a bad choice. Well, those are your choices. So deal. I mean, someone's going to represent you.
Whether you're being forced to vote or not.
Someone's going to represent you.
Whether you're being forced to vote or not, it is a bad choice sometimes.
What can you say?
Yeah, good point. 7360300, top story. You're on the air. Good morning.
Good morning, and thanks for taking my call.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
I read in the paper the other day that Jerome County has a 26% voting, the lowest in the state for counties. And so that's really only 1 out of every 4 people.
Yeah. I don't think Twin Falls County has been a lot better.
It was just a hair above. It was saying, the article was saying that the Magic Valley is the lowest in the state.
I know. Why is that? That is sad.
I almost think it's because of the Latino population, but I can't say for sure.
Well,
if it is, they should get together and vote, and everybody should. So maybe this compulsory voting, it's compulsory to do jury duty.
Oh, yeah,
well,
it's compulsory to do a lot of things,
so,
except vote.
Maybe that's what should happen. If you can and register, you better get it, or maybe they come by with these people that hit you with small sticks about the head and body.
We all should get our neighbors out to vote, all of us.
Now, one of the alternatives for that, rather than forcing citizens to vote, is to make it illegal to vote. Yeah. And then that would probably increase the voting rolls tremendously.
This is what's happening in North Carolina and Georgia. They're trying to prevent them from voting, and they're getting more. Clinton got 43% of the vote. He got 370 electoral votes. George H.W. Bush got 37.5%. He got 150 electoral votes. And then you're right, Ross Perot, 18.9%. And he got 0 electoral votes. So it doesn't seem to matter presidential. It's really the electoral votes that count.
Yeah. That's probably how they get around it. 7360300, top story. You're on the air. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello?
Anybody there?
Good morning.
Hey,
Hello.
Good morning. Got about 10 seconds.
Quick.
Mandatory voting is not going to make any difference. Half the people that are supposed to vote won't. We'll spend another few $1 million chasing them, at which point we'll do nothing about it.
That's probably about right. I'm not saying that compulsory voting is on the way. I just thought I saw an article about it this morning and thought it would be interesting to discuss. So it sounds like just about everybody is against it.
Yeah, it sounds like
Time
it, according to my poll.
For the Huckabee Report. You can hear the Huckabee Report each weekday at this time, brought to you exclusively by Waddell & Reed, Laura Nelson, Josh Funk, and Steve Stanger, financial advisors. And the number is 736-6563. Well, now it is time, ladies and gentlemen, to pull a winner out of the hat for another Lunch with Kelly and Jill at the Canyon Crest Dining and Event Center and a ride in the Stretch Limousine to and from.
Do I get to pull it and hand it to you?
Sure, why not? So if you are ready, Jill will mix it up. They've already been pre-mixed, but that's okay. It never hurts to mix a little bit more. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. All right. The winner is... Interesting. Jim Winsveen.
Are you serious? Are you serious?
Oh, my gosh. We have to put up with him again? For another...
That's great. Do you have his number handy?
The number is not on there. I'm sorry.
Jim, 736-0300. Call in if you're listening. Congratulations. He won once before.
Now, we still got, this is November, so we got November to go yet. So if you have signed up for a free lunch with Kelly and Jill and haven't won yet or haven't won within the last 30 days, then
clearly
go to our
you
website.
Can play again because Jim just won again.
You can go to our website, newsradio1310.com, and click on Win Lunch with Kelly and Jill. Fill in your name, and you might be the lucky winner next time. Top story, good morning.
Good morning.
Well, you lucky duck. You must have had a lot of points to put in for that.
Am I good or what? I'm going to get 3 rides in the limo.
The last time your brother won. I don't know what you guys are doing.
I'll tell you what.
We're living right. We better head to jackpot.
Yeah, there you go. We'll talk to the limo driver, see what he says about that.
So,
Thanks, Jim.
That's exciting.
We'll
have to figure out a day. So, We'll have to email Kelly.
Email us, and we'll get a day figured out.
Okay, whatever's convenient for you two, I'm good.
All
I'll
right.
have to drag that brother of mine with me, though.
Okay, sounds good. Well, congratulations again.
Hey, thank
Congratulations, Jim.
All right.
It's like old home week. We'll be having lunch with a friend.
I know. It's going to be fun.
Say, and we didn't talk about Bishop Street. I was just forwarding some of the pictures I took to Terry.
We had a great time. Trick or treat on Bishop Street.
There were thousands and thousands.
Literally.
And thousands.
Literally. And that was just the kids. That doesn't even count their parents. So.
It was so cute.
Yeah, we gave away tons of candy, and everybody there gave away tons of stuff. And it was a good time.
And the kids are so, we're going to have these up on our website. Some of the pictures are adorable. So.
All right.
And hey, Kelly, tell them what our costume was.
Well, I was the wheelchair bandit.
And I was the taxi cab driver.
Yeah. And a few people actually got that.
But you got to sit down the entire time.
Did.
You're a genius.
It was a stroke of genius, I'll tell you what. Next, now tomorrow, Steve Millington will be with us on Election Day for the Twin Falls Republicans. So see you then. Have a great day. Goodbye, Jill.
Bye, Cal.